Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Today we will have Darren Hermans speaking on hospitality gaming. Darren is the Enterprise Wi-Fi Product Line Manager of Cambium Networks. Darren, are you there?
I am indeed. Can you hear me talking?
Yes, I can.
Fantastic. So would you like me to go ahead and take it off and I'll just have you forward the slides as we go?
Yes, can you see the slides?
I do not yet.
Okay, let me see. Sorry, everybody, we're
Well,
having
go ahead
some...
and share that. I'll go ahead and get some introductory comments going. So thank you all for
Okay.
joining. We do have a partner portal for the hospitality promotion. We have a promotional price set for hospitality market. And the promotion that we're doing with hospitality is pre-approved. Thank you. I can see it now, Susan. So the promotion we do for hospitality is pre-approved pricing, very aggressive pre-approved pricing on all the products in the portfolio. And also now that program also has some other benefits. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things that program has that you can benefit from. One of the things it has is this material we're going to talk about today is on that partner portal site. Also, we also have there an answer key. So if you're responding to a WLAN tender, and sometimes it asks a really generic question like, does this product support, I don't know, does the product support IPTV? That's a good generic question. Well, how do you answer that? Well, the answer is yes, of course it does. But maybe you want to provide more information than just yes. And so the answer key that we have on the partner hospitality promotion will actually give you some text that you can use to talk about Cambium's, the way how Cambium networks actually meet that particular requirement. So that's a good tool. That's also on the portal. Another thing on that portal is a BOM, a bill of materials creator, a bill of materials generator. And what you do with that is very, very simple. You just you select as much information as you know about a hotel, small, medium, large. That's okay. If that's all you know, it's a small hotel. That's good enough, and we can give you a sample bill of materials. If you have some more information, like this hotel has 232 guest rooms, and it has a small lobby and one restaurant. If you know that kind of detail, you can select the information as well, and we'll create a bill of materials for you with that new, so you can take advantage of that tool to actually create a bill of materials with Cambium Networks Wi-Fi products for a hotel and the Cambium Networks CN Matrix access, CN Matrix Ethernet switches, as well as CN Maestro. So that's one of the tools. So all these tools are available on that portal site. I am in the process of updating that portal site. So the information I'm talking about is not there right now today, but it will be there within the next week. So please do check back to find that information. Just to go to your Cambium Networks partner portal, the channel partner program, log in, scroll to the bottom of the page, and you'll see a banner thing for the hospitality promotion. And that's the place where I'll stick the material that you can utilize. Okay? So I want to highlight that point, and so you kind of prepared for that as well. So you'll have a little follow-up, little action item you can do in the next couple of days, in the next week. Susan, let's go ahead and look at the first slide here. So one of the pieces of material that's going to be on that partner portal is going to be this document here, and this document it's hospitality gaming notes. And it's a relatively long document. It's about 20 pages. Now that sounds like a lot, and it is, but it's just a summary of captures a lot of information about hotel gaming. There's a lot of stuff in there in that document that you won't find documented elsewhere on the internet. There's a lot of good information that you can use for hospitality gaming, understand how casinos operate, what kind of things are important to them. As well as you can take, and quite frankly, 75% of the material applies to other hotels as well. So in this webinar today, I'm going to be pulling out a couple of key summary sections from that document we're going to talk about. So guest room networking, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the conference zone, some of the things to look at there. And we're going to talk about location-based services. And LBS is a great topic. Unfortunately, I've done a lot of work with location-based services. So I've done it well. I've done it, I've done it good. I've done it bad. It always works, but quite frankly, with location-based services, it's hard to know if you're going to get the value out of it, given how much work you're going to put into it. And so we'll talk about that today and maybe provide you with some guidance there. Next slide, Susan. So gaming hospitality really has these sections, these sort of, we call them zones, and each zone is unique, but also there's a lot of commonality as well. Each zone has its own requirements, its own challenges. So today we're going to focus on the guest towers. That's where the guest rooms are located, and guest rooms have high attenuation walls and fairly small rooms, right? So small rooms, 250 square feet, was it like 25 square meters, something like that. So small rooms with really high attenuation walls and floors. That makes it a completely different RF environment than all the other zones in a casino and a gaming hotel. In the guest towers, people use streaming media. They want the at-home experience. So it's a different set of requirements. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the conference rooms and ballrooms where high capacity is important. And we're going to talk about, and also as the gaming floor with location-based services. We're going to kind of focus on those first three boxes. Next slide, please, Susan. So in those guest room zones, I'm not telling you anything here you don't already know. Obviously, the name of the game here is streaming media. In the outside of hotels, primetime traffic, 79% of all primetime traffic in residential homes is some form of video streaming. 55% comes from just two companies, YouTube and Netflix. That's a tremendous amount of data. Interestingly, one hotel a couple years ago, I was working, one of my gaming hotel partners. We were looking at some of their application statistics in the gaming floor area, not the guest rooms, but the gaming floor. And we were looking at how much people were using social media, how much people were doing other kinds of traffic. We found that even downstairs on the gaming floor, in the lobby, in the restaurant area, 38% of the traffic was YouTube. 38%, and this wasn't even in the guest room. So even downstairs, people are YouTube is obviously, again, telling you something you don't already know, right? We know that YouTube is important. We know that streaming media content is critical. This does impact the way you architect the network in the guest rooms. Next slide, please. So we look at the next slide, and we can see that hospitality has changed in the last 5 years. So when we talk about the changes, remember, when was the iPad launched? When was the iPad launched? Anybody remember that? Write this date down, May 2010. May 2010. That's when the iPad was launched. And it really changed everything, because before the iPad, before iPad, we would install one AP about every 7 rooms. That was the number. That was the number that Hilton settled upon. Every Hilton hotel from 2008, 2009, 2010 was 1 for 7. Most other hotels about the same, 1 for 7, because we used laptops. Then the iPad came. After iPad, it very, very, very quickly dropped from 1 in 7 to 1 in 5, all the way down to 1 in 4 by 2014. So 2013, 2014 were 1 AP for every 4 rooms, because proliferation of tablets and smartphones. And since then, it's only gotten smaller. So it's gone from 4 to 3 to 2 down to 1 AP per room. And so today, we are here in 2019, we're somewhere between 1 AP per room and 1 AP for every 2 rooms. We're somewhere in between those two. Some hotels will jump to 1 to 1, some hotels would do 1 to 2. In gaming hotels, actually, I've seen a lot of use of 1 AP per room in gaming. And the reason is that gaming hotels, they're making so much revenue on non-gambling. They're over 50%, more than 50% of revenue in Las Vegas has nothing to do with gambling. So it's the restaurants, it's the events, it's the conferences, it's the shows, it's the concerts, it's golfing, it's flights over to the Grand Canyon. It's everything else. So that's the reality is that people go to these gaming hotels as a resort, not necessarily to gamble. And so with the idea and the goal and the objective of providing this really great, awesome Wi-Fi experience, this at-home experience, you can stream any content you want, do whatever you want to do. Gaming hotels are rapidly moving towards this 1-to-1 AP to room ratio. So keep that in mind as you're talking to gaming hotels and finding out what their requirements are and what they want to do. Look at the next slide, Susan. So why do we say 1 AP per room? And so the document that I'm referring to here does describe this also in a little bit more detail as to why this is so important. But essentially, it comes down to the fact that a guest room is full of materials that absorb RF, like drapery and furniture, and walls that are designed to attenuate sound. And so when they design to attenuate sound, they're usually built with double gypsum board, sheetrock, 2 layers of sheetrock, or maybe even 1 layer of sheetrock, but they put some sound, they pad the inside of the wall with sound batting material, or in areas of the world where it's prone to hurricanes, typhoons, or other places, they'll use concrete block, cement block walls between rooms. And so all of these types of materials tend to block or attenuate 15 to 20 dB of signals, 15 to 20, and that's a significant amount of energy. So when you're trying to push through, that much energy, it's just not getting there. Actually, Susan, can you back up one slide? Because this is the point I wanted to make on that slide 5, actually. There you go. So what happens in these guest rooms, when you have those 20 dBm walls, the access point is transmitting about 6 times more powerfully than the smartphone can talk back to the access point. So it's talking down 6 times more powerful. So what happens is you may be able to get signal to push from an access point through a bunch of walls, and you might be able to create a nice heat map, but the smartphone won't be able to talk back to the AP. And so that's because the type of device, low power devices, and high attenuation walls. So let's go back to slide 6 again. So when we're in the guest rooms, those high attenuation walls and floors can actually help you out. They can help you to do something that you might not otherwise think that you can do, which is you can use a 40 megahertz wide channel in the hotel guest room areas. Now that's going to be a controversial statement, and I fully accept all the criticism of saying that. And I know that skilled technicians will disagree and will offer good, valid arguments why you can't use 40 megahertz. But I'll tell you that in my experience, I've been successful doing it. We did a test at a big hotel in Las Vegas. It was a suites hotel that had lots of suites in it. And we actually did a test. This was in 2013. And we set up some rooms where we used 20 megahertz channels, and we set up some rooms where we used 40 megahertz wide channels. And then we tried to pack as many people as we could into those rooms and test them and see where we could break it. And actually, the 40 megahertz worked really, really well. We did not have, with the high attenuation walls, we were still able to get a good signal without a lot of co-channel interference, because there's just too many walls between an access point that's on one set of channels. By the time that same set of channels was repeated again, the access point was 4 or 5 rooms down the hallway, and there wasn't enough signal to cause co-channel interference. So we actually were able to significantly increase our throughput, and the number of devices we were able to connect in those areas went up by 30% during that test. So that's something you can do. Keep that in mind. Again, individual results may vary, so always do a site survey to determine if you can utilize the wider channel. But if you can, go ahead and do it, and don't worry about doing that at all. It's a good thing to do. And what happens is, let me explain this a little bit more detail. What happens when you look at a hotel and the bandwidth in the hotel, you've got a hotel. Let's say it's a, well, for example, one of the big hotels that I worked at, a casino several years ago, had a 500 megabit per second link. I think it was around 2,000 rooms, I think it was, and they had a 500 megabit link dedicated just for guest access. So you think, okay, 500 megabits per second divided by 2,000 rooms, well, that's not very much bandwidth per user. Doesn't sound like a lot at all. But actually, so then they say, okay, well, now the access points are running at 150 megabits, 200 megabits per second, way faster than the internet connection out to that 500 megabit pipe. But here's the thing I want you to remember on this. When that 500 megabit per second pipe hits 90% utilization, and it hits 91%, 92%, it gets close to saturation point, what happens to the guest experience? Let's say they're watching a Netflix program. Does it stop or does it slow down? Well, the answer is it slows down. In fact, Netflix and YouTube and Hulu and Amazon Prime are really good at dynamically rate adjusting the delivery of the content to match your particular connection speed. So when that WAN pipe reaches saturation, things slow down, but they don't stop. Now, what happens when an access point reaches saturation? Remember, access points are half duplex. Access points have this method where the client device has to negotiate with the access point. It has to authenticate. It has to associate to the access point. So what happens when the access point hits 90% saturation? Well, new clients cannot connect. So you'll actually have disconnection issues when you don't have enough capacity on the access point versus the WAN pipe into the building. So that's why it's really critical. I always say this, it's very critical that to get as much speed as you can at the access point. That's how you will let devices get on the network with the fewest number of errors possible. More devices, fewer errors is what you get. That's the benefit you get by putting these one access point per room. Okay, hit that one to death. Let's go ahead and look at the next slide, conference rooms and meeting rooms and ballrooms. So a little bit of physics here. So you've probably all heard of the inverse square law. And this is a law that applies to all electromagnetic energy. So light energy, light from the sun, light from a flashlight, radio waves, AM stations, FM stations, RF from a Wi-Fi access point. All electromagnetic energy is subject to the inverse square law. And this is really, you'll see this very clearly in conference rooms and meeting rooms in large open spaces. And what it says is that as the distance away from the source increases, so R is the radius of the circle from the source, as it increases, the power level decreases inversely proportional to the radii. So that I just stumbled through that horrible explanation. Let's make it practical. So if the value of R, if the source of the access point, and then the value of R is, let's say it's let's say it's 10 meters, 10 feet, could be anything 10. Once you get to 2R, that could be 20 meters or 20 feet. 2R, the power will be 1/4 the power of R. So if R is 10 feet, then if you measure the power levels at 20 feet, 2R, you would measure 1/4 of the power. If you go out to 3R, you will measure 1/9 of the power. So it's inversely proportional to the square. So that 3R, you take 3 times 3 is 9, put 1/9, so it's 1/9 the power. So 3R is 1/9 the power of R. And this applies to any distance you measure, whether R is 1 foot, 1 meter, R could be 10 feet, R could be 100 feet. No matter what distance R is, when you get to 2R, 3R, 4R, 5R, and so forth, the inverse square law shows that how the signal, the electromagnetic signal, actually degrades significantly. This is the reason why we use the dB scale, because dBs are logarithmic and allow us to express these values in numbers that are easier to manage. So let's go back to our example. Let's say at R, you measured, I'll just pick a number, neg 60 dBm. Neg 60 dBm at R, and R was 10 feet. When you go to 2R, say 20 feet away, you will be 6 dB lower. So 2R will be neg 66 dBm. And so that's how we use the dBm scale. So in the conference rooms and meeting rooms, you're not going to be able to cover a huge area. If you have, and so in this area, you really need high density access points. You need to have access points that are going to cover a relatively small area. Generally, about 200 square meters is good, 1,500 to 2,000 square feet per access point in the conference rooms. Highly recommend using 4x4 access points, 4x4 antenna streams. And the reason is, even though the client devices might only have 2 streams, you still will get better reception, better receive sensitivity, and you'll get better performance from the multipath using a 4x4 access point. So it's better for high density using a 4x4 in the conference rooms. Likewise, in the conference rooms, you're most likely going to have to use 20 megahertz wide channels. You want to try to avoid even adjacent channel energy. So channel 36 and channel 36 and 40 too close together. You will get impact on even adjacent channels. So you want to use as much channel separation as possible. So 20 megahertz wide channels in the conference rooms is going to work really well. Additionally, if you can use DFS channels, do it. Devices today, almost all modern devices support, client devices support DFS. And so use DFS, measure your area, check the area, the zone where you're at, see if you're near an airport, you're near a terminal Doppler radar system, something that's going to cause interference. And then if you can do it, use DFS. Now, location-based services. This is something that comes up all the time. It's a really fun topic to talk about. LBS, location-based services. Let's look at the next slide, and we'll start talking about LBS a little bit more detail. So here's 2 examples side by side, and I've done both of these. Unfortunately, I've done where we try to do precise location. I've architected networks. Quite a few networks, actually, quite a few casino properties and gaming hotels, where we designed the network specifically to locate a device within 5 meters. 5 meters. We actually got down to 3.8 meters. And so we pat ourselves on the back. We said, great, this is awesome. Look at this. We got down to 3.8 meters. But at the end of the day, all that effort ended up costing us in a large property. It doesn't cost as much more. For a really large property, costs about 35% more than zone location. For a small property, it can actually cost up to 300% more to put in the number of APs you need to get precise location. So if you can think about it, you think about the coastline of a state. The coastline is not a straight line, right? It goes in and out and caves and bays and so forth up and down the coast. And so if you drove along the coast of any city, any continent, the coastal road will be the longest road. It won't be a straight line like an inland road. It'll be the longest road that goes along the coast. So when you're doing precise location, a similar thing happens. You have to put the access points first on the edges. You have to cover all the edges, the long sides, and all the corners, and then you fill in the gaps in the middle. And so that's why you end up with between 35% and 300% more access points to try to get precise location. Because ideally, you want any physical spot within that property, you want 4 to 5 access points to be able to report that client device from any spot within the building in order to get precise location to work. Now, here's my problem with that. I mean, that all sounds fine. It sounds cool, sounds neat. The problem is, at the end of the day, that data is just not useful. It just isn't. Because in every case where I've deployed location-based services, what it comes down to is they didn't really care about exactly where the person was standing. What they really cared about is the person in the restaurant? Are they in a bar? Are they in the gaming floor? Are they at the lobby? That's what they really care about. They really care about the zone. And all your analytics are really based upon zone. So 99% of everything you possibly need to know about location-based services you can get from a zone location. So that's why I highly recommend zone location. Susan, let's move on to the next slide, and we'll show a little bit about how this works. So in a workflow, the zone location workflow kind of works like this. The client device, first of all, they have to have an app. Well, not always, but let's pretend that the client has an app on their phone and they walk into a zone. And what happens is 1 or 2 or maybe 3 access points will report that device to a third-party location analytics engine. That analytics engine will determine, based upon signal strength, oh, this device is in the zone, is in the box. And that's all it cares about. It doesn't try to figure out exactly where in the box you are. It just says you're in the box. Okay, you're in the box. The box could be a restaurant. The box could be the bar. It could be the lobby. It could be anything. It could be a box. And then depending upon what the marketing department wants to do, they might just do some analytics. Count the number of devices that are in the box, how long they've been in the box. Did they leave the box by the same way they came in, or did they leave the box by another way? That's the kind of information you can get. And sometimes the marketing department will say, you know what, we want to push some information. So if they're in the retail space of a gaming casino, well, we want to send some retail information. Maybe you want to send a coupon to the person so they'll do some shopping in that retail space. So then based upon what box you're standing in, they'll send back a coupon to your phone via the app. And then you can see, oh, look at this, there's a coupon for 10% off. Next slide. Next slide, Susan. Now, when we start looking at precise location workflow, it's a little bit different. So now you've entered the box, you're somewhere in the box, but you're being seen by 4 or 5 access points, and all those APs are reporting back your signal strength to the server, and the server has to try to figure out exactly where you are using trilateration algorithms. So these are well-known algorithms. They're not unknown. A lot of third-party companies can do this with Cambium products. It's just a lot of extra compute and processing, and it really doesn't give you much additional value. A little bit of value, but not a whole lot. And so it just really increases the effort. But if you notice, it's still effectively the same thing. You're in the box, and we're going to do some analytics on that, how long you've been in the box, did you enter or exit using the same method, and maybe we're going to communicate with you over an app. Now, one of the questions that comes up, and particularly in Europe and places where personally identifiable information is legally protected. The question is, well, you're tracking people. No, we're not. Because you can completely anonymize all the data and still get value out of location-based services, even with entirely anonymous data. Just understanding where people are, how long they stay there, provides valuable insights. In particular, the conference space. So meeting rooms and conferences, companies pay millions and millions of dollars. Conferences in the US, United States, conferences and meeting rooms generate $132 billion a year in economic activity. $132 billion in economic activity. So companies spend millions and millions and millions of dollars sending their employees to a hotel and to a city, oftentimes Las Vegas, to attend a conference. And what do they do in Vegas? Well, they go out and they go gamble, they stay out all night, and the company wants to make sure they're getting value for them for the time that they sent their employees to Las Vegas for this conference. So location-based services can actually help you to understand, even with anonymous data, to understand how many people are taking a break, they're taking a smoke break, or maybe they're in their guest room when they should be attending the keynote address that the CEO is making. So it does help you to better utilize the conference room space and understand how to engage people more accurately in that space. One of the casinos that I worked with years ago used this type of location services, very anonymous data, just anonymous, to understand where people go when they leave a concert. So a Tuesday night, not a hot night in Las Vegas, it's kind of a low night. So Tuesday night, a particular singer might be at an event center and draws in 10,000 people to see this concert. Well, where do those 10,000 people go at 10 o'clock when the concert's over? So one of the hotel customers that I worked with actually used this type of location-based data to understand where people go in general, not specifically, Bob went here, but just in general, where do people go? And then they were able to put their advertising, their marketing material to get people to stop and go to a bar, stop at a restaurant after the show, and actually began to generate revenue by changing people's behavior at the end of that concert. Okay, let's look at the last slide here, and then I'll open up to some questions here. And I know I've already kept you guys longer than I expected to, so I apologize for that. So the gaming topology from Cambium, of course, we cover all the bases. So we have our CN matrix, Ethernet switches. You can use those at the access layer, use those at the edge. There are PoE switches, power all the devices. We have access points that work extremely well, guest rooms, conference rooms, front of house, back of house, outdoor. And of course, CN Maestro, which ties it all together. And that's an important factor right there. If you have one access point in your house, you don't need a central, you don't need a whole lot of centralized management for one access point, or even two, or even five. But when you're talking about 500 or 1,000 access points, you need to have one management console, just one, that shows you everything. Because if you have two, or you have three, or you have multiple management points to figure out what's going on in the network, you're going to spend all your time and all your energy just running reports that no one's ever going to be able to understand. So put it all on CN Maestro, let CN Maestro do the whole thing. That's the best course of action I can recommend. Okay, so unfortunately, that's the end of the presentation. Let's do some Q&A. And Susan, I apologize for not being able to log on as a presenter this morning. Whatever mistake I made, I apologize for that. So I'm not able to see the questions. So if you could just skim through the questions a little bit there and read them off, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, sure, it's no problem. I am actually not seeing any questions, but I'll give the folks here a few minutes. I'll remind everybody that these slides and the webinar will be posted to community and our YouTube page for your viewing after this is done. So I'll just wait another minute, see if we get any questions.
What people think about that, I'll remind them that the main document that I was summarizing here, the hospitality gaming notes, will be posted. I'm getting it relayed out by our marketing team. So in the next few days, that will be posted to the portal, the partner portal under the hospitality program. And so that will be an asset that you can take a look at. You can download it. Another asset that you'll find there will be the WLAN RFI template answer key. That provides you with some good answers to commonly asked questions in RFIs and RFPs. And a third document you'll find there that's really useful will be the bill of materials generator, and that will also be posted as well. So that will help you to quickly get an idea as to what this particular property could look like from a cost perspective. And you can actually spin off a quote and send that off to a customer rather quickly. So just remind you of that as well. So check back in the next couple of days.
Okay, thanks, Darren. We did have one question. Oh, there's another one. First question, is it hard to become a partner? I'm not quite sure how to answer that, but I would suggest going to our partner portal and applying online from our website, www.cambiumnetworks.com. Darren, do you have any comments on that?
Let me make some comments. Actually, I think all partner programs have a minimum requirement to get involved, right? And so at the minimum, Cambium is asking you to take some training classes. So learning.cambiumnetworks.com will be the place you'll go, and you'll have to get some certification on the products that you're interested in. But it's not a complex process. I mean, most of those training classes are really good, actually. Even if you choose not to become a Cambium partner, go take one of the classes. I think you'll really, really like it. They're not that long, 15, 20 minutes. You'll learn something, and then you can get certified. One other thing that Cambium does, I think, is not part of the partner requirement, but I'll highly recommend it. Log into cloud.cambiumnetworks.com and sign up for an account right there. You don't have to be a partner to do it. It's just you can just do it right now today. And sign up to cloud.cambiumnetworks.com. You'll be able to see what the CN Maestro looks like. Log into learning.cambiumnetworks.com. Those, again, you do not have to be a partner to do that. So go ahead and log in there, take a class, take a look around. So we do make it as easy as possible. Yes, the requirements to be a partner is you will have to meet the terms and conditions. You will have to take some training on the product that you are interested in.
Great, thanks. Yeah, the same user said that they're buying a lot of PTP A20C and APs with subscriber modules now. And they said
Yeah,
thank
good. So
you.
you know all about the learning site, and I hope you're up to date on your PTP 820 training.
Yes, they say thank you.
All right. Hey, and I'm with Alan today. Alan, we're at a meeting together today, so I'll say hi to Alan.
Great. I do not see any other questions. Oh wait, will there be a sectorized E700?
Good question. That comes up from time to time, and at the moment, no. At the moment, we don't have any plans to do a sectorized E700. But contact us offline and give us your business case. We're constantly looking at those business cases, and when they pile up to a critical mass, we'll do it. We do have some other, but I'll tell you. So I'll give you a little preview. There are some new access points in the outdoor portfolio coming out this year. Actually, in the next 6 months. The first half of 2019, there will be 2 more outdoor APs coming. So just a little quick tidbit there. That's on the cnPilot side of the portfolio, and that's something you can look forward to. That's a pre-announce.
Okay, I don't see anything else coming in. Thank you everyone for attending today. Thank you, Darren, for being our presenter today. And I will post the recording and these slides to community and YouTube later today.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, everybody.